It is now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the conference. I introduced her already last night, but I'll introduce her again because she's just that awesome. Liz Liddell is the Director of Campus Organizing at the Secular Student Alliance. She has been with us since 2008 in that capacity. She was the volunteer editor of The Empirical, which is our monthly newsletter. And before that for a couple of years. And I have to say the Jen McCrae quote every time because it's just so much fun that when Jen was blogging about a bunch of famous atheist women in the movement, she mentioned Liz and described Liz as her virtue was that she somehow manages to organize hundreds of campus groups without exploding. And so when she is not preventing herself from exploding, she plays early interval instruments, woodwinds, and it's really fantastic. I've gotten to see her perform a couple of times. It's really an amazing skill. By the way, Liz has a master's in bassoon performance. So if you're curious what sort of job opportunities you might be able to have if you have a master's degree in bassoon performance, Director of Campus Organizing is one. And when she is not herding her proverbial cats, she is doting on her real cats, which she has a couple of and loves very much. And with that, I give you Liz Liddell.
I'm going to have you pardon me for just a minute while I get dressed here. No, it's fine. I have no sense of modesty. Or taste, really, when it comes right down to it. All right, well, I'm excited to see everybody here. I know it's morning, and that doesn't always mean that it's compatible with college students. But hey, you're here, and I'm very glad to see that. I'm going to add one more thing to August's announcements, which is that if you have a travel grant, if we offered you a travel grant to come here, you need to pick that up while you're here. So you'll need to meet Nick out at the registration table at some point today or tomorrow with a photo ID to pick up that travel grant. Nick, will you wave your hand around for a second so they know who you're looking for? There's Nick. Go talk to him. This is your start to the morning. Okay, I'm actually not going to use that. I've taught in big classrooms before, so I'm just going to yell at you. So if you do have trouble hearing me, wave your arms around and I'll speak up a little bit more. So, my very cheerful first talk of the entire conference is actually entitled All for Naught. And we're going to talk about why campus groups die. And then on a lighter note, how you can save yours. Campus groups do die. It's a fact. It's something we've started doing a little bit of research into lately because it happens. We lose a lot of groups. Average, we lose about 10% of our affiliates every semester. So right now we have 210 affiliates. So that means that in the course of this year, I will lose about 21 groups in the fall semester. That's about 1 in 10. Here's a chart. Look at that. This is particularly true of new groups. Of groups that are in their first year, 13.5% don't survive. So look, the piece of pie got bigger. That's how charts work. What can we learn from this? In the studies that we've done this semester, in the last couple of months, we've learned two main things. One is that groups that die, if we take all the groups that have died and look at them, we see that they are less active across the board. They have been using less SSA resources. They don't have as many infrastructure elements in place to support their group. They don't do as much. They're not as active as a lot of the other groups. The other thing that we see a lot are leadership failures. And we'll talk more about this later on. There's a big category of events, but it can be anything from burning out your leaders, injuries or accidents, poor leadership transitions, internal fighting, et cetera, et cetera. But the vast majority of group deaths are because of those leadership failures. So, now that we're done with the depressing stuff, we're going to talk about how you can save your group and keep it from dying. Before I get into this in a really big sense, I do want to add a disclaimer. Every group is unique, and we do not tell you what to do. A lot of groups do have, almost every group has quirky things about itself, and so these are generalizations that we think probably will work for the majority of groups. But if you have found something that has worked for your group, by all means, keep doing it and then tell me about it so I can share it with other groups. There are 4 attention areas to save your group. If you all flip open your books to about page, 20 or so, 27, look at these organized people, you'll find handouts that are going to start to look a little bit like this. First area is infrastructure. Those are the structural elements that you have in place to support your group. Second is activity, the stuff your group does. Support, which is the outside support and assistance that you get for your group. And the last one is leadership. Bear in mind the capacities of your group. I'm going to tell you a lot of things that we see have helped groups, but if you are a small group, trying to do everything at once will burn out everybody involved, and it's just as bad as burning out for any other reason. So bear in mind your capacity when you're taking these steps to improve your group. Area 1, infrastructure. Every building needs a good foundation, and so does your group. The first thing that I would say every group absolutely must have is a web presence, either website or Facebook. It's a must-have. You must have this. If you don't have your group on the internet somewhere, people aren't going to be able to find your group. I'm going to add a disclaimer here. Twitter does not count. In everything I have looked at, Twitter is an extra add-on whirly-gig-dealy-do that you can have if you want, but a website or a Facebook group or Facebook page are what you need. You need a static place that people can come and visit independently to see what your group is about. Don't overextend yourselves. I hear a lot of groups, groups that just get started. We've been an official group for 2 weeks and we want to start a website. And I say, whoa, make sure that's something you really want to do, because I see a lot of groups that get really excited, start that website, they put up 15 posts in the first month, and then they never touch it again. And so I'll go to SSA at myownveryhighschool.com and find out that they haven't put anything up since last October. And I say, okay, is this group still around? Are they still alive? I go to their Facebook page and they're like, hey, here we are. But they're still using the web address for the website that they don't update. Having a badly out-of-date website can actually be worse for your group than not having one. So work with what you have and what you can do on this. Email announcement list. This is not just your Facebook group that you message all members with. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with members of our groups who are not comfortable joining a Facebook group or stating on Facebook that they are an out non-believer because of scholarships, family, social relationships, because you live in Louisiana. There's a whole host of reasons why you might not want to actually join your school's Facebook group. And that's fine. So rather than going out and saying, you're all wrong, you have to join it, set up an email announcement list. This gives you 2 big benefits. One is that you can get all of these people who may not join your Facebook group. And 2, because when you're out tabling on your campus, you can have a sign-up sheet that says, join our email list. And all you need are people's email addresses to get in touch with them. You don't have to tell them and depend on them to remember later to come get on Facebook, remember to look up your group, and actually join it. Once you have that email address, you've got their attention. Regular meetings. You're going to hear this one from me a lot, and this is probably the most controversial thing I'm going to say in this entire talk. Woo. But we have found that regular meetings are one of the most important things your group can do, unless you are a really odd outlier group. You know who I'm talking about. If you are not having regular meetings, you are missing out on a lot of opportunities to build community. You're missing out on an opportunity to build habits in your members of showing up at a certain time and place. And you're missing an opportunity really to make your group something that exists in reality and not just on the internet or in theory or on a piece of paper with your school's registration. Now, obviously, there are other ways you can do that. I said this is the most controversial thing, so if you want to take it up with me afterwards, please come find me. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you need help with this, go to secularstudents.org/GP2M. That stands for Get People to Meetings. And there's a whole sheet there about ideas on how to get people to show up to stuff. Brochure business cards. It actually really doesn't matter what format this is. I don't care if you have flyers, brochures, posters, business cards. Bookmarks I've had groups do bookmarks. What you need is a piece of paper with your group's contact information printed on it that you can hand out to somebody when you meet them. That you can have on your table for people to take with them when you're tabling. You can have at big events so that, when you have 500 people in your community come to see Dan Barker come speak, you have something to tell them who you are and how to get a hold of you in the future. We do actually have a business card service with the SSA. If your group wants free business cards, talk to me about it. There's some other areas of infrastructure that we have found that are nice to have, but not as critical. A bank account, which actually is really weird. I'm going to take a second to talk about this. In the studies we've done, there is no difference in groups that have bank accounts and don't have bank accounts as whether they lived or died. However, if you don't have a group bank account, we can't give you money, because we can only write checks to your group's bank account. So even though this doesn't appear to have any real impact on your group surviving or not, it's a really good idea. Office space you could have, campus mailbox, a formal membership system, membership dues system, that sort of thing. These are all nice to have, but they're not as critical as those first four. Area 2, activities. Exercise is good for your body, it's also good for your group. Hey, look, regular meetings. If you're going to do things, again, unless you're a real weird outlier, you want to be having regular meetings. We already talked about why, so I won't go over it again. Tabling and outreach activities. This is where you get a table from your student union and you plop it in the student union or out on the quad, and you make some noise and dress up in pirate costumes and get people to take those brochures or business cards about your group. This increases your visibility on campus. It lets people know you're there. It gets you new members. It gets you, sometimes you can get media coverage for it. I mean, it's a win-win-win-win-win situation for your group, and it's a lot of fun. Just wear sunscreen. From those two, which if I were going to say a group should, what should my group do if we don't do anything else? Do those two. As you expand, start with the easy stuff. Get local speakers. Get professors from your school to come talk to your group about things that are of interest to your group. Have movie showings, which I've found in my experience, they're either fantastically successful or a complete flop, and we're still working on why. So if you've had successful movie showings, can you raise your hands for a second? Talk to those people. Social events. Hey, we're all going to go meet at Starbucks and have coffee. Hey, we're going out for pizza. Hey, let's meet at the bar after our meetings. Then, once you're used to doing events like that, kick it up a notch. Participate in service projects or local activism events. Set up panel discussions. Set up cooperative meetings to promote dialogue with a religious group on your campus. Build up to the big events. If you're a brand new group and you're getting started, or if you're a small group and you want to expand, think twice before saying, I want to bring Richard Dawkins. It's something you want to build up to. It's definitely an awesome thing to do. I wouldn't discourage anyone from doing it, but you want to make sure your group is strong enough. Organizing debates can also be a handful, but it's definitely something worth building up for. Organizing your own service projects or activism projects are another thing you want to build up to. Definitely recommend if you can, though. Use the SSA services and resources to help. We offer all kinds of goodies to help you get speakers, get money, get funding for stuff, get event ideas, planning help. So we're here for you. Area 3, support your group. You want to build a relationship with one or more outside entities, this being people, organizations, aliens, whatever, to get an outside support network for your group. You want a watcher, not a dictator. Okay, what do I mean by that? Watcher versus dictator. Let's do a little comparison. A watcher wants to know what you're doing, so they're going to ask. A dictator wants to run your group. A watcher asks how they can help. A dictator tells you what to do. A watcher listens. A dictator tells. Your watcher wants to be invited to events. They want to know what you're doing. They want to be a part of it. A dictator has to be involved in everything. Your watcher should be checking in periodically. Your dictator doesn't leave you alone. Your watcher trusts you. They know that you're competent adults who are capable of running your group. And the dictator doesn't believe that and thinks he or she knows what's best. Your watcher might look like this. Your dictator might look a little more like that. All right, possible organizations you might build these relationships with. An off-campus group. If you have a strong off-campus group, talk to them. They love you. They want to help you. And the biggest problem I hear from off-campus groups is that they don't know that they'll reach out to their campus group and they don't ever hear back. But chances are, if there's an off-campus group in your community, they want to help you, and you just need to talk to them and work out a way to do it. SSA and CFI, why choose? We both love you. We both want you to affiliate with each other, or with one another. Dual affiliation is awesome. An active advisor. If you have an advisor that you've never met, that does not count. If you have an advisor who comes to your meetings and participates, that does. Active alumni. Same thing. If you have members of your group who have graduated and they're still in the area, keep them involved. Likewise, if you have alumni from your school who are free thinkers, get them involved. An off-campus supporter. This is where you can get into a little scary watcher versus dictator area. Sometimes you can get awesome individual people who want to help your group. Sometimes that can be a little dodgy, so be careful. And again, SSA services and resources are here to support your group. Take advantage of them. You're the reason we do this, so, let's do it. Area number 4, leadership. If you don't do anything else, do this. A huge proportion of the groups that die were in their first or second generation of leaderships. Raise your hand if you started your group. Keep your hands up. Raise your hand if you took over leadership from the person who started their group. Keep your hands up. All of you people with your hands up, you're in this risk group. Here's a typical situation I see. It is a general group. It's a composite of a lot of things that I see. But you have 1 or 2 strong leaders. They're very competent, but they're so busy running the group at the time that they don't prepare for the future. They either graduate or burn out, and the people who are left to fill their shoes either don't have the preparation, knowledge, or motivation to continue the group. I see this happen all the time. I don't want to see it happen to your group. So let's talk about what you can do about it. Don't be the only leader for your group. If you're doing 95% of the work, you need to get help. You want multiple engaged officers. These are not just people who sign your paperwork so that you can continue to be a registered organization on campus. They actually help you do things. Delegate, delegate, delegate. This is so important that we're going to talk about it on a separate screen for a second. Delegation crash course. Start with organization. If you don't know what you're doing, you can't expect anybody to help. But if you get yourself organized, then you will be able to tell people what you expect of them and why, and they'll be more able to help you. When you are delegating, be specific. Will you call the Office of Student Activities and ask them how much it costs to rent the largest auditorium on campus, and then tell me, right? Will you find out how much it costs to get us a room? Be clear. They're kind of one and the same. Include a precise due date. Hey, can you do that by Tuesday? Rather than sometime. Name one ambiguous responsible party. Kay, will you do this for me? Rather than will somebody find out how much a room costs? Make a note for yourself to check in on the task. We've all got laptops or smartphones or calendars. I hope you have some way to organize your life. Make yourself a note so that you can check in on it later. Hey, Kay, did you get around to calling the Student Activities Office to find out how much the auditorium would cost? Sometimes, this is one of the biggest things I see. We are smart people. We are good at stuff. Sometimes you have to delegate a job to someone who's not as good at it as you are. It sucks. You're going to hate it, and you have to get over it. Sometimes a volunteer will do something too poorly to use, and this is one time where you do have to call them out. You have to let them know why you can't use it, but be constructive about it. You're not telling them that they're horrible people. You're helping them learn. You're helping them learn because you're going to leave someday, and they are going to be running your group, and they need to learn how to do things. And so it's up for you to train them. Last but not least, the buck does stop with you. You're the one checking in. You're the one giving the delegation requests. You're managing your volunteers. So ultimately, you can't lay the blame on the volunteers entirely. That's poor taste, and it doesn't get anything done. So it does come back to you. All right, now we've learned how to delegate. Train future leaders. Engage in active succession planning. We have succession planning tools on the SSA website. I'm happy to help you work out a succession plan for your group, but this is the number one thing. You need to know where your next leaders are coming from. You need to train them to do their jobs. Don't slam on the brakes. You want to phase out your involvement. Do not be the one person doing 95% of the work for your group until you graduate and move out of town and they never hear from you again. Your new leaders are going to need some time to learn from you while they're doing the majority of the work, but can still ask for you for help. Ideally, we like to see the leaders of the group be juniors, with the past leaders still being in their senior year so that they're around for advice and help when needed. Obviously, reality, ideal universes don't always line up, but when you can. Last, don't abandon your successors. Even if you are going to move out of town and take a job somewhere across the country, we have this amazing thing called email. Be available. You may not be able to walk across campus and do something for them, but you can tell them where to go. You can help them solve problems. Last but not least, if you need help, ask. I am at liz@secularstudents.org. That's my office phone number. I'm also on Skype, AIM, iChat. I'm on Facebook. If you can throw paper airplanes at me, I'll take those too. There we are. I have 1 minute left.